Alright, so now I'm going to take this thing apart. The front and the back are pretty much the same, besides the front has a dog bone and the back has a CVD drive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up and get it all taken apart, and then I can get it cleaned up real good. And I'm going to try to seal it with some RTV sealant that I have. And these are the FG unsealed diffs. Some screws on the car are Allen, some screws on the car are Torx. I like the Torx, I hate the Allens, but work with what you got. And I also had these marked before, but we'll try to keep them together the same. Alright, so now there's a pin in here. Slide that pin out, and then you'll be able to get all the gears out. It's a messy job. So that's pretty much most of the parts. You're gonna have a bigger hole on each side with the splines, and then you're gonna have the pin has a smaller hole. So I'm gonna get these parts cleaned up and get it ready to go back together. Alright, now that I got all my parts cleaned up, I'm gonna start putting this guy back together. I'm going to take these dog bones, these out drives out the front of the diff just to help me out. And I'm going to use them to turn over the diff and get everything lined up. Alright, they should slide in there nice and easy. If you have to force them, you've got something wrong. I'll put the pin through. Once I got the pin all the way in, now I'm going to put these out drives in so that I can turn it and put my grease in there. You don't want to put too much on here because it'll make a mess, but you want to make sure you get enough on there to seal the diff up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this guy on. Make sure you're putting it on the right way. Put some bolts through here to help line it up. And that should be pretty good. It should be nice and sealed. Hopefully it doesn't leak out now. Just taking turns, putting it side to side, and letting it soak down in there. I want to save enough to do the front. Put a little bit more in, and I'm going to let it sit. And I'm going to have to clean up the top so that it's nice and clean, so I can silicone the other side on and bolt it back together. The more you fill it up, the tighter your diff will be. The less you put in, the more open diff action you'll have. I'm using the car for drag racing acceleration, so I wanted to spin all 4 tires and drift, slide around, spinning all 4 tires, as opposed to road racing where you would be wanting the car to handle better, do the turns. This is more like what off-road guys typically do, try to lock their diffs to send traction to all 4 tires. That's fine with me. I'm gonna let it sit for a little bit and soak down in there, and then I'm gonna come back and I gotta clean up the top edge with some brake clean, and I'm gonna silicone the top together and bolt together. Alright, now that I got all my parts cleaned up, I'm gonna silicone it back together. I'm gonna take out these 2 bolts that I originally put in there to hold it lined up. I'm gonna run a bead around the inside right here. Nice and easy, not too much, not too little. You just gotta be a balance. Try not to get into the cavity on the sides where the grease is. Just to be safe, I want it to be 100% sealed. So I'm not even gonna put none here. I'm just gonna put a film all around the top outer edge. Just enough to hopefully help seal it. I'm not even running a bead, I'm just putting like a light film. Now on this one, it's gonna go on there, and I'm probably gonna run a bead around here too, just to be safe. I wanted this thing to be sealed, so again, not very much, just a light bead all the way around will do. Less is more sometimes. I'm not too worried about it getting inside the diff where the grease is, because it'll just get chewed up and break down. It shouldn't damage anything. It shouldn't create no problems. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see where my holes go through and try to line it up in one shot. You can turn it once it's on there, so it's not that big a deal. Once you get it popped on and lined up, get it all the way down. Now I could flip it over and put my screws through. And tighten them up. I got them snug. Now I'm gonna crank down on them. Crisscross pattern. They're Allen, so try not to strip them. Alright, so now I got it back together. On the top side there's that little hole. Not sure what it is. I would think it was a breather, but it doesn't go inside anywhere that I can see. So I'm gonna actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna inject some silicone down in there just to be safe. And I'm gonna put a little tiny bit around the edge here. Alright, so now that I got that, I'm going to come around and clean it up some. Take off the excess. The most important thing is that you have it nice and dry and clean with that brake clean, because if not, the silicone will not stick. I'm going to put a little bit more in that hole just to be safe. That's pretty much it. I'm going to keep these out. You should do the back first because you can steal these drives from the front to keep the fluid from leaking out. I'm going to let this dry and then we'll be putting it back in the car.